to watch a little video. You've got a resident of the township of Thornton who is really, really upset, and she has good reason to be. She's demanding counseling for the damage that the Supermayor Tiff's cohorts have caused to the citizens of the township of Thornton and also those living in Dalton. Let's watch a quick video. Here we go. I'm starting to be able to recognize a lot of these faces. Interesting.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening. When I was a child, from the ages of 9 through 11, I was sexually molested by close family members. I was made to believe that if I said something, no one would believe me. I became silent. My voice was lost in a sea of depression. I experienced low self-esteem, loss of identity, became unsure of who I was or who I would become. When I became a mother of a beautiful girl, I found that what happened to me would never happen to her. But unfortunately, as a single working mom, I could not protect her from the generational curse that plagued my family. I often think about if I could change back time, and if my baby girl, who is now 32 years old, would have felt safe enough to tell me what was happening to her, what I would have done to those who abused her. Vanilla Dukes was sexually assaulted on a Thornton Township sponsored trip, allegedly by Andrew Holmes, who is still on your board, Tiffany, and Dalton. Instead of protecting her, you fired her and kept her violator as your ally. He is one of many criminals working for you. Your boyfriend, Kamal Woods, is drawing a generous salary for a position he has yet to report on. However, he allegedly felt the need to put his hands on Nate Fields Jr. less than a week ago. Is that part of why he was hired at the township? Why is it that you would rather have criminals to defend you as opposed to providing counseling for those who have been abused sexually, mentally, or physically? Isn't it better to spend tax dollars on services the silent residents with low self-esteem need and stand up on your campaign events like Taste of Thornton Township and Big Bingo? And January, in this very room, Tiffany, you told the world that you are Dr. Martin Luther King's dream. Did you forget that his dream was that someday people would be judged by the content of their character and not by the color of their skin? I will leave you with this thought. All nightmares come to an end, and so will this one. Mr. Roberts, Paul Roberts.
There's some wild stuff. I mean, powerful. That's a powerful speech. That is a well done speech. Now you can find that. We're going to get into it. We're going to break it down. But on the Lansing Journal, Local Voices, this is what they came up with. And it's one of the reasons I wanted to do this story, because there are some underlying stories and so much of what is going on, not only in the township of Thornton, but also village of Dalton, is, trying to push back on damage that the Supermayor and her cohorts have done. Yeah. And put the whole Uncle Drew thing aside, Andrew Holmes, and what happened in Vegas didn't stay in Vegas. That whole thing is just a mess. But that exemplifies just one of many, many, many stories that has come out of the township of Thornton and the village of Dalton as a result of decisions being made by the Supermayor and those that she employs. So here is basically a transcript from the Lansing Journal. They've done a really good job of covering the township of Thornton. They'll do full videos of each meeting, and they try and provide, I think, as unbiased as anybody does. Everybody's got a bias, right? But they try and just, hey, here it is. And so this is a transcript of that speech that we just heard from Jennifer Roberts. And so a couple of the things that I wanted to go over. Isn't it better to spend tax dollars on services the silent residents with low self-esteem need instead of on your own campaign events like Taste of Thornton Township and Big Bingo? Big Bingo caught my eye because we're always hearing about Big Bingo. I mean, who doesn't love to win at bingo, right? People love to win at bingo. But when you've got underlying stories like the one of this woman's daughter, Jennifer Roberts' daughter, I mean, at this point in time, no charges have been filed against Andrew Holmes. No charges have been filed. It's all allegedly. It's probably going to be a he said, she said type event, as a lot of those happen. But then what happened when they came back and a police officer knew all of this is that Tiff fired the young lady. And Andrew Holm is still on the payroll. He's still on the payroll. Another major event that has come up recently has been Tiff's boyfriend, Kamal Woods, I believe it is. He's got a job, but nobody knows what it is. Nobody knows what it is. It's like, how do you give somebody a job and there's virtually no structure around who, why, what, or, what the deal is, with repeated questioning by township residents? Hey, what's his job? What's he doing? And then he's kind of getting into it a little bit. Putting on hands is a nice way of saying shoving. One of the young men at a meeting. I mean, you've just got all of these examples of basically out of line criminal behavior. And this whole notion of, hey, we need some counseling up in here. Yeah, you probably do. When this thing's, like she said at the very end, and I've got it on the thumbnail, I'll leave you with this thought. All nightmares come to an end, and so will this one. Everybody knows this is coming. But in the meantime, you've got a whole township and you've got a whole village that have just basically been, taken to town, as far as, vast amounts of their resources being spent on ridiculous stuff that Tiff, like Big Bingo. Like, everybody loves to win at bingo, but counseling for people who are in mental need versus Big Bingo, which one you want to go with? And normally I'd say, counseling, I mean, yeah, okay. But there's some real examples of how this township and how this village could probably really benefit from that. And also from the lack of trust that has been created by Tiff and the way that Tiffany Henyard, somebody got really upset with me. A couple of people got really upset with me. You're saying Tiff too often. It's her nickname. I mean, would you rather have that or Dictator of Dalton? You pick, or Tahoe Tiff without the Tahoes. Tiffany Henyard has broken the trust in these communities big time. And yeah, these folks probably deserve counseling. They probably, especially the one lady who woke up and she was, the whole story of that, she was naked in bed and no recollection. And, the list, it's one of those stories where it doesn't sound good. Any which way, it doesn't sound good, right? I mean, if from the standpoint of, is somebody a victim here? It kind of sounds like it, but we can't absolutely prove it. Authorities in Las Vegas it's my understanding, they've looked into it. I don't know where it goes from there, because this is literally one of those, what happens in Vegas, well, hopefully stays in Vegas. They went to Las Vegas on, I think it was the township of Thornton's dime, right? Because bills were being paid at one time by the township of Thornton's credit cards to the Dalton village events that the supermayor was going to, that Tiffany Henyard was going to. So, on behalf of the village, and she was paying for it with the township of Thornton, there's all of this stuff, massive amounts of distrust. And these people, these residents, they don't know which way, is up. in a lot of these circumstances. And that's why they hired Mayor Lori Lightfoot to come up with this report. And she kind of gave broad strokes as best she could of the financial mismanagement that has happened. So counseling, yeah, these people probably deserve it. I mean, they've just been put through the ringer. Now to do that devil's advocate, they hired her. I mean, she was elected. She was elected as the mayor, right? She was appointed at the township. I think that's how that goes. But any which way, and then the township tried to basically impeach her, and they didn't exactly follow the letter of law. And so just this massive mess. I mean, talk about a community needing, when somebody horrific dies or kills themselves or something terrible happens, like at a school, and they bring in the grief counselors. They need like a big group of grief counselors, but not grief, probably anger counselors. Like, why did this happen to us? Why is all of our money gone? Why have our accounts gone from millions to 3,500? Why did we go from a net positive in our budget to now we are wildly upside down? Why are these police officers getting paid hundreds of thousands of dollars overtime? And, in the case of Lewis Lacey, he wasn't even approved for overtime. So you've got all of these circumstances where I think folks they're pissed. They are upset. So some anger counseling, probably some grief counseling. We elected her. Yeah, I need to grieve about that because this is terrible. And the list just goes on and on and on. How about for those business owners that have basically been targeted by Tiff's henchmen cops to come in and say, hey, if you don't donate to us, we're going to shut you down. You got violations on you. Having your livelihood shut down like that. I mean, there's just example after example. How about the basic theft of hundreds of thousands of dollars for the 4 vehicles? You had 3 Tahoes for Tiff. You had 3 Tahoes and you had 1 Ford Explorer, I believe. And because they went to a hard money leasing lender and they didn't have to get board approval to lease out these 4 vehicles that are going to cost them $13,000 over the course of all 4 of these leases over 5 years. I mean, the cars went from a price of $100K up to $150K with fees and interest on these leases because they're hard money. They're not regular leases based on credit. And all right, you're a municipality with good standing, therefore we'll give you a lease based on today's market rate. Instead, they just got bent over and reamed. So, example of that after example after example after example, let alone the young lady who had the event happen in Las Vegas. I mean, that's way up on the top of exactly what happened there on a company trip. I say company trip, but on a, township trip. Anytime you take a trip to Las Vegas, you know what I mean? You kind of open yourself up to some liability because people, we're in Vegas. This is great. Just going to do whatever. And it kind of sounds like a little bit of that happened, and maybe more than a little bit, but it's all allegedly at this point. The other stuff, the stuff that's coming up in Mayor Lori Lightfoot's reports, I mean, it's pretty tough to combat that. You can only say, hey, you know what? We had a decrease in revenue from here and our expenses increased there. You can only say that so much. And then you're left with the brutal reality, which is what these people need counseling for, which is the supermayor spent their money irresponsibly. And they have been asking her time and time and time again for accounting for this. Hey, account to us where our money went. Why are we paying these people? Why are these people not being paid? If you are a member of the Dalton Village and you have 589 checks for a total of $6.1 million that should have gone out to businesses in the community that have worked for that money and they're not getting paid. I mean, talk about some anger. Yeah. I mean, it's wild stuff, right? It's wild stuff. Cumulatively, both this township and this village they're going to need some counseling when this is all over, all said and done. And it sounds funny, but the harsh reality is, yeah, they are probably owed because this has been so traumatic. What is shocking to me is that no arrests have been made yet. I mean, how are we still operating as if business as usual? Tiff is still sitting up front. Now she's got lawyers with her, right? She's either got a criminal lawyer or she's got the Township of Thornton's lawyer with her, like there was in the last meeting. Let's go back here and we'll take a peek and see what I'm talking about. If you haven't been following this story, and this was from last week's meeting. This was from last township's meeting. Now here she is. Okay, I'm going to kill the sound because we don't need to hear that. But yeah, here's the attorney. Now I know a lot of you made fun of this attorney because he was trying to sit there as if he was not in the room, like he was invisible. You know when you have a little kid and they think for some reason that you can't see them, but you really can. And if they sit really still, or like a bunny rabbit that's coming, one of those really dumb bunny rabbits that's like in your yard, but you drive up and they're eating in your lawn, eating, the little green shoots coming up. And then they get there and they're real still and they look at you and they're still chewing and they're just so dumb looking, right? Because I can see you, you can see me, but you think that I can't see you. Yeah. We've got this situation where this guy was sitting there just kind of hoping, maybe if I just don't say anything and I look straight forward ahead, they won't see me either. Now, we saw you. We understand who you are. And you're an attorney that doesn't necessarily want to be there. You've got a handful of a client. But, how many more of these board meetings are we going to have with the FBI probe kind of hanging out there? Got Lori Lightfoot's report. You've got to have some attorney general action going on behind the scenes here. I mean, you've got basic police misconduct. You've got all kinds of civil stuff going sideways with bills not being paid. You've got misallocation of funds. I mean, you've got stuff going on 10 ways from Sunday. And at the end of the day, yeah, these people deserve some counseling. So I am with this woman here from the standpoint of, that makes as much sense to me as anything. Big bingo? Nah. Give them one of those counselors that can kind of talk to the whole group at the same time, right? And then let people, if they want to come in independently. I mean, these people have been traumatized. Any which way you look at it, these people have been traumatized. But the caveat there is you got to make that vote count. You got to vote in the folks that are going to do you right. And I think Tiffany Henyard came on as somebody that was responsible initially from what I've seen clips from her earlier on. And then once she got in power, once she got in office, that's when things started to go sideways. And I think she saw some real opportunity and she took it. And now the Township of Thornton and the Village of Dalton both need counseling that should be paid. Should be paid by Tiff, shouldn't it? Yeah, she should be turning in all that stuff that she took money for, or whomever took money. How about the $40,000 plus that was spent with a city company card on Amazon stuff? That was a real highlight reel there for a couple of weeks ago. That came up from the Lori Lightfoot report. But where's all the money from that? Or where's all that stuff? Let's return that. Let's get some counseling instead, right? Doesn't that make more sense? All right, that's it for me. I just wanted to report on this one kind of segment because I thought it was an important segment, not only from the standpoint of what may have allegedly happened to that young lady, should be, perpetrator should be held accountable for, but goes for the village as well and the township as well. If things have gone sideways, you got to have accountability. And that's what I think everybody is looking for. And so when will that happen? Geez, at this point in time, who knows? But don't you half expect every single board meeting or township meeting to have the FBI walk in and go, Ms. Henyard, you are under arrest. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you can or say or do or whatever, that whole thing, Miranda rights, right? Yeah, we're all kind of expecting that at some point in time here very, very soon. So stay tuned. Make sure you're subscribed because I'll be reporting on it. Thanks again for being here. I'll catch up with you in the next one. Bye for now.